Welcome back, everybody. On today's episode, we're going to be working on this beast. So we're actually not going to be working on this here though. Two reasons for that. One being it doesn't fit in my garage, and two, I have two cars that don't move in my garage, and I don't feel like working on this out in the sun. So we're going to be taking a trip to Delaware to my friend's garage to do some work on the old F350. But before I get into what we're going to be doing, I need to move this out to the front yard so we can actually talk about what we're doing. So here's what we're going to be working on today. This is my 2006 Ford F350 with a 6-liter turbo diesel Powerstroke engine. I bought this back during COVID when stuff was super cheap before the market inflated for everything. So I got this for a really good deal, but it has its own set of issues. It has a rebuilt title, unfortunately, from a tree falling on it, which you would never really be able to tell from the outside. It also has some issues with rust, but what old truck doesn't at this point? And it's pretty much bone stock. It has a 4-inch MBRP exhaust system. It has an air raid intake, and then beyond that, it's bone stock. Oh, and Sinister diesel intercooler pipes, which I didn't install any of this. This is how I bought it. But it runs and drives every time that I go to use it, and I've never had any issues with it really, so I really can't complain. This truck owes me nothing. But the whole reason we're working on this today is because the last time that I went to get this inspected, I was told that I had a front strut that was dying a slow death and needed to be replaced. So instead of just replacing a strut, we're going to put a whole new leveling system on this. So let's walk around to the back and I will show you what we have to put on this. So we bought a Carli Suspension's Commuter base leveling kit for this truck. This is what's regarded on the internet as one of the best leveling systems that you can put on your truck. So we're going to see if it rides better and how much better it rides. Their kit comes with fresh Carli branded struts. They used to come with Fox struts, but they had supply chain issues and they switched over to a new supplier. They're still custom valved. They supply 2-inch taller coil springs for the front end, as well as a new adjustable track bar, extended front brake lines, front bump stop spacer pucks, as well as caster correcting shims for the front ball joints. The basis behind the system is that it gives you an extended travel versus your stock stuff. So even if you have a 2-inch leveling system as like the puck style leveling system, that's like what I already have on the truck, you're still going to need all these parts because that system won't extend your travel, so your front brake lines are long enough and all of that stuff. This system, however, is going to extend your travel, so you need that extra length in brake lines. You'll want the caster correcting shims. That way you still have good steering feel. The adjustable track bar is because when you lift these trucks 2 inches, the front axle will slide over. So you need an adjustable track bar in order to get it back shifted. It shifts about 3/4 of an inch, so if you don't care about that, I mean, you can still align it and get it to drive straight, but it looks a little funny rolling down the road when your front axle is shifted compared to your rear. But yeah, this is the entire suspension setup that we're going to be putting on this truck. I also ended up getting all fresh hardware, as well as I needed to get the proper coil spring bushings for the top of the springs, because obviously the puck system that's on the truck replaced those, so I had to buy them new from Ford. But like I said earlier, this truck has some rust, so I just went ahead and bought all new hardware. That way, you know, if something doesn't want to budge and it comes down to it, we can cut it. But I'm going to be making the trip out to Delaware in the morning, so I will pick you guys up then. I got to my friend's shop out in Delaware at about 9 in the morning, and we quickly got the truck up on the 4-post lift to start working on it. It took a bit of effort and trial and error to get the truck up, lift it properly, because we needed to, you know, pick the frame of the truck up, but still have something underneath the front axle to support the weight of it. That way, when we unbolted the shocks, we could release the tension on the springs in a controlled manner. So took a bit of effort to figure out how to get that done, but we got it lifted up properly, and then from there we started disassembling the front end. It's relatively easy. The driver's side shock you have access to from the engine bay, so we were able to climb up on top and use an impact on top of that to take that out. And then the passenger side shock you don't have access to from the engine bay. The heater box actually ends up blocking that, so your choice is either use hand tools in the wheel well, or you can do what we did and just send a sawzall through the bushing area and cut the shaft of the shock. These shocks were trash. They were completely blown, so it really didn't matter for us. But yeah, made quick work of that. And then from there, we just had to unbolt the sway bar end links, and then we could drop the axle down as low as it would go and take the springs out. When we did this, we just had to pay attention to the brake line so we didn't stretch them too far and snap them. Even though we were going to replace them, we didn't want to deal with, you know, breaking them. So got that all done, and then as Jack started buttoning up the front end, we put the new springs in with the new bushings and the new shocks. And as Jack was doing that, Zach and I started taking apart the rear end, which is just taking the two shocks off and one brake line, replacing that, the brake line that goes from the frame down to the rear axle, which wouldn't have been that bad. We just didn't have that much room to get tools in to be able to pry the top of the shocks off of the studs that they're installed on, so that was a bit of a pain, but we eventually got that all done. And then from there, it was really just bleeding the brakes, and we were ready to go. Thankfully, everything came apart really easily, so it made this go actually way quicker than we expected to. We didn't have to cut anything beyond that strut, and yeah, it worked out perfect. So we made good progress so far. Really dirty. It's been a mess doing this, but it's been fun so far. Not too many issues, but you can see, oh, maybe you can see, got the coilovers in, new brake lines, new struts, looking all good up front. We still have to do the, let me get out of the fan. We still have to do the shims for the caster angle, as well as put the adjustable track bar in, which is what we're about to do next. And then we also have the new struts in the rear with the new brake line up there. So it's gone relatively smooth. Everything's come apart that's supposed to come apart. Everything's stayed together that's supposed to stay together. One slight issue is the coil spring buckets. If you're familiar with old Fords, the coil spring buckets like to rust out. So that is the coil bushing or locator that rusted off the top of the spring bucket. So we line them up as best as we can, but that'll be on the to-do list to replace sometime in the future. But yeah, we're gonna get back to blowing this thing apart and get the track bar on and the caster shims, and then go for a test drive and see how much better this is now. All right, we are fully wrapped up now. Got the struts in the back. Jack's putting the cross back in. And then we have shocks and springs in the front and track bar, which is hard as hell to see. So that is our new track bar there, up to the frame mount. That bolt gets torqued to 406 foot-pounds, which is insane, but we did it good enough. The only part that we skipped was putting the pucks into the bump stops, which I don't even think you can see, because the bump stop bolts didn't want to come out. And instead of snapping them off and having to drill them, or not having any bump stops at all, we just left it the way it is. Which I don't really think that 1/4 inch spacer is going to do much for us anyways, but otherwise pretty much went off without that big of a problem, beyond trying to torque a jam nut to 200 foot-pounds and another bolt to 400 foot-pounds. But yeah, the only other shitty thing that we had to do was the way the extended brake lines work. They don't have all the brackets that the factory lines come with, so we had to cut them off of the old factory lines to be able to use them for the extended lines. But otherwise, we're gonna go test drive this now, make sure there's no weird moans and groans, and then I'm gonna make the trip back to Pennsylvania, and I'll let you guys know how it drives when I get back home. So we finally made it back home. I actually made it home last night around like midnight, which was way too late and way too dark to actually film this, but truck drives awesome now. So fresh suspension underneath this is amazing. Night and day difference from how it used to drive. You know, before, when I'd go over like bridge transitions and, you know, it has that little dip to it, the truck would do the whole bounce across the entire bridge until it hit the next one, and then it would keep on bouncing for what felt like forever. Last night coming home, none of that. I mean, it hit, you can feel the bumps, but it doesn't bounce. It settles right out pretty much right after you hit it. It's awesome. So love this suspension. Definitely recommend it to anybody that is thinking about putting a fresh suspension underneath their truck. This is definitely the way to go, and I will definitely do this in the future to any truck that I own. But yeah, we kind of destroyed this thing off-roading it, but it is what it is. It's muddy, it's disgusting now. I gotta clean it up. But that's gonna wrap up this video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and we'll see everybody next time.